Welcome to Random Movie Reviews. I'm Nathan, and today I'll be talking about Halloween 2. So it's been a while since I last uploaded. It's been a little over 2 weeks, which I think is the longest gap I've taken between making videos since I started this channel and regularly uploading videos since last year. But I kind of just needed a break and needed some me time. But since Spooktober is right around the corner, my favorite time of year in terms of the season, in terms of movie watching and all that good stuff, I was like, you know what? It's time to jump back in. And I decided to kick off Spooktober a day early with Halloween 2. This can be seen as somewhat of a part 2 to a video I did last year talking about Halloween 4. For anyone interested in that who hasn't seen it, I'll link it in the description below. But yeah, Halloween 2, kind of an interesting horror movie. For a lot of different reasons. Firstly, you know, this was the first Halloween sequel to come out in the year that slasher movies were the biggest thing ever in 1981. I mean, the amount of slasher movies that came out in that year alone is pretty extraordinary. And because of that, one of the big stylistic differences between Halloween 2 and the first Halloween movie is that this one's a bit gorier, a bit more violent, a bit more in the spirit of, you know, movies like Friday the 13th Part 2 or My Bloody Valentine. It was the time where horror movies were becoming a little bit more gorier and being made for super cheap so that they can make a ton of money. And that was all because of the first Halloween movie, which is one of my favorite horror movies of all time and just kind of one of my favorite movies of all time, period. It was a movie that at the time was just a really low budget and simple premise that was executed perfectly in terms of John Carpenter's direction and especially his score, Dean Cundy's cinematography, which Dean Cundy comes back for Halloween 2, which was one of the best aspects about Halloween 2. But that first Halloween movie, I mean, it made so much money. I think it made $70 million box office, and that's $70 million in 1978. I believe the movie held the record for quite some time of being the most profitable independent movie ever. It was kind of inevitable that a sequel was going to be coming out. And John Carpenter didn't really want to do a sequel to Halloween. In fact, he wanted Halloween to be more of an anthology series where there would be multiple Halloween movies, but they would all have their own self-contained stories. And that's where Halloween 3 Season of the Witch comes in. A movie that, believe it or not, I still haven't seen, which I'm hoping to fix that for this Spooktober. But that was the idea originally. But they're like, you know what? That first Halloween movie, people loved Michael Myers. They were scared by him. We need you to come up with a script, a concept, so we can do a Halloween 2. And then after that, we'll let you do your anthology thing. Which, of course, failed spectacularly because when Halloween 3 came out, everybody's like, where the hell's Michael Myers? What is this movie? And it failed not only because of that, but I think at the time, critics were just not really feeling that movie even on its own merit. But of course, that film went on to develop quite the cult following, and I'm going to make up my mind about it once I watch that. But then, because Halloween 3 was such a failure, then that's where we get Halloween 4, Return of Michael Myers, and then Halloween 5, and so on and so forth. There are still some Halloween sequels I haven't seen in its entirety. Like, I still haven't seen The Curse of Michael Myers, the Paul Rudd movie. I haven't seen that in its entirety. Haven't seen Halloween Resurrection, the one with Busta Rhymes.
Let's see what you got.
This is the greatest thing that I have ever seen.
Haven't seen that in its entirety. And when it comes to the David Gordon Green trilogy, I saw the first Halloween movie when it came out in 2018. Remember liking it, but also remember thinking that the humor was really bad and felt super awkward and out of place in that movie.
Oh, man. I got peanut butter on my penis.
But I still haven't seen the sequels that followed it, which apparently are a lot worse, according to a lot of people. And I'm disregarding the Rob Zombie movies entirely, because I saw the first one, thought it was terrible, and I just can't stand Rob Zombie as a filmmaker. Sorry, Rob Zombie fans. So that's why I watched Halloween 2 today, because one of the themes I'm having for Spooktober for myself is watching the other Halloween sequels that I haven't seen yet, and figuring out which one is definitively the best Halloween sequel. Now, according to most fans and popular opinion, the film that I'm talking about today is the strongest Halloween sequel. Now, like I said, I haven't seen Curse of Michael Myers or Resurrection, but I've seen a lot of clips and scenes from those movies because they're infamous. And frankly, just based on that alone, they look terrible. And one of the reasons why Halloween 2, I think, is highly regarded amongst Halloween fans is because more than any of the other sequels, this movie does a really good job of staying close to the same atmosphere and tension that was established in the first Halloween movie. And like I mentioned, Dean Cundey, who is the cinematographer for the first Halloween, as well as one of the greatest cinematographers of all time, who's worked with John Carpenter on all of his best movies like The Thing and Escape from New York. He would also do Back to the Future and Jurassic Park. I mean, this dude is a legendary cinematographer, and it shows. Even in Halloween 2, far from being one of his best movies quality-wise, but visually it stays very true to the first Halloween movie, and there's a lot of great imagery in this movie, a lot of great use of shadows and POV shots of Michael stalking people, and that's kind of what makes this movie so watchable, is that it's more of the same of the first movie, and then on top of that, you know, we get some more graphic kills pretty early on in the film, and then we would get stuff later on like the jacuzzi death where the water's boiling hot and her face is all melting off. That's pretty hardcore. I'm a big needle phobic. You know, I can't do needles, and that needle death is still pretty brutal to this day. So that's all the great stuff about the movie. Where the movie fails is as a narrative story, because there's really no story or not much of a story you can add to Halloween 2. And, you know, John Carpenter was clearly desperate to add some sort of twist or element to make this movie stand out from the first one. And his bright idea was, well, let's make Michael Myers related to Laurie Strode. Of course, that would end up doing some serious damage to the Halloween franchise down the road with the sequels. It would get increasingly stupider and more mystical, and kind of goes against everything that makes Michael Myers such an effective killer in the first movie, where he doesn't have a motivation. He doesn't have planned targets. He just kills whoever is in his way or whoever he feels like killing. He's crazy. He's evil. He's the embodiment of evil. And giving him a motivation takes a lot of the fear factor away from him as a character. And the way that's shown in this movie is also hilarious, with a really corny looking flashback as Jamie Lee Curtis is in the hospital, which, by the way, and it's been said numerous times at this point, she does little to nothing in this movie, with the exception of the last 20 to 15 minutes with a terrible wig. She's barely in this movie at all. And that's kind of a problem, because it makes the movie feel pretty aimless. Because Michael just goes around killing random people, and then we get to the last 15 minutes, he's like, oh, I gotta kill you because you're my sister. And it's just like, oh, geez. Clearly, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, who wrote the script to Halloween 2, were desperate to try to do something, but just based off the finished product, you could tell they really didn't know what else to do. Because what else can you do, really, with a story as simple and as perfect as the first Halloween movie? You can't really expand on it or make it better. All you can really do is kind of just do the same thing again, but change up little things here and there. And one of the best change-ups, as far as the sequel goes, is the setting, which is a isolated hospital, which is a great creepy setting for a slasher movie. And that's one of the reasons why I really like this movie. I'm like, oh, it's so creepy, him going in a hospital that's like low-key abandoned for some reason. Like, there's barely anybody in this hospital. That doesn't really make a lot of sense, but I'm not going to start poking logic in this slasher movie, because you could do that with most slasher movies and it'll fall apart the second you do that. But the setting in this movie is fantastic, and it's a pretty good paced movie. There's no moment in the film that feels like it's wasting my time or taking too long to get to the good stuff. Like the first Friday the 13th movie, which I think can get pretty boring. And then Friday the 13th Part 3, holy God, one of the most boring movies ever. Luckily, that would be redeemed with Part 4, one of the greatest 80s slasher movies ever, which expect a review on that soon. One of the other highlights of this movie is, of course, Dr. Loomis, played awesomely by Donald Pleasance. And I should also highlight that he is the best thing about Halloween 4 and 5 as well. He is just hamming it up in those movies. He gets super over the top and crazy. And that kind of starts with Halloween 2. There's that great scene where he realizes that Laurie is still at the hospital and Michael is on his way to kill her. And he forces a police officer at gunpoint to go to the hospital, and then he shoots out the window. And it's like, yes, crazy Loomis. Crazy Dr. Loomis is my favorite. One of my favorite side horror characters ever. And the fact that he goes even more off the rails later on in the movies is just a delight. Halloween 2 in many ways is kind of like Jaws 2, where the first movie, like the first Jaws movie, is one of the most perfect movies ever, and you can't really, you can't really do any better than that. I feel the same way about the Halloween movie in terms of classic slasher movies. You can't really top it. But relatively speaking, in comparison to its sequels, Jaws 2 and Halloween 2 are pretty watchable. They're not great movies, and you can, see why they were critically panned because they don't even hold a candle to the first movie. But relatively speaking, when you compare them to the other sequels, in the case of like Jaws, it's certainly better than Jaws 3 and Jaws 4. Jaws 2 is a very watchable movie, and, the shark stuff is fun, and I can say the same thing about Halloween 2. All the Michael Myers stuff, all of the stalking, all of the great visuals where we see, Michael showing up in car mirrors and, just seeing his silhouette in the background and stuff. That's what makes this movie so watchable and why I still enjoy it, even though I can acknowledge it's not that good of a movie. But it's a good early 80s slasher movie, because so many early 80s slasher movies are kind of just terrible. Not only story-wise, but visually speaking, they're so cheap and just kind of boring. This one's not boring. Now, I should mention, I have seen Halloween H2O. I only saw it once, though, and I saw it for the first time just a couple of years ago. And I remember liking Jamie Lee Curtis a lot in that movie, and liking how they made Laurie Strode like a concerned mother, and the way they kind of expanded her character felt logical and realistic. But I also remember that the movie was trying to be diet Scream in terms of the tone, and all the Michael Myers stuff was really underwhelming. All the kills and his screen presence and the atmosphere of that movie was really lacking to me. And the look of Michael Myers is so stupid in that movie. It's probably on par with Halloween 4 in terms of just a terrible mask and just not scary at all. That's the other sequel that often gets mentioned in terms of, what's the best Halloween sequel? There's a lot of H2O fans out there. I will probably rewatch H2O this year because, like I said, I want to come to my own opinion about what my favorite Halloween sequel is. But so far, it is Halloween 2. It's a fun movie. It looks good. There's some memorable kills, and, it's not boring. But one of the big things, and I can't believe I almost forgot to mention this, one of the biggest downgrades to Halloween 2 is the score. I mean, the score in this movie is atrocious. That first Halloween score is iconic. It's perfect. It's one of the greatest horror movie scores, one of the greatest movie scores ever, in my opinion. And Halloween 2, all the score is so bad in this movie. We see Loomis run out of the house and he's talking to the neighbor. "I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight. You don't know what death is." They play the new version of the Halloween score, and it sounds like the opening to Mamma Mia. And if you don't believe me, listen to this.
"You don't know what death is. You don't know what death is."
But like I said, Halloween 2 is best viewed in the context of the franchise as a whole, and the Halloween franchise as a whole is a mess. It's been retconned twice. Like, I don't even know if Halloween 2 is considered canon anymore. I mean, who really cares about that shit anyway? But in comparison to the other sequels, as far as the ones that I have seen so far, Halloween 2 is definitely the best. Like I said, it's the atmosphere, it's the setting, it's the kills, it's Loomis getting a little bit more crazy. It's the scene where Ben Tramer gets hit by a police car and explodes immediately. It's crazy, insane moments like that make this movie entertaining. It's that awesome ending. Laurie shoots out Michael Myers' eyes, and then he's kind of stupidly waving his arm around. That part's kind of lame. But then Loomis decides to sacrifice himself, killing him and himself in that awesome explosion. It's the use of the song The Sandman in the opening of the movie and the ending of this movie. All of that culminates into Halloween 2 being a pretty good, fun, entertaining early 80s slasher movie. So that's my thoughts on Halloween 2, but I would love to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on this movie? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Is it your favorite Halloween sequel? Is it your favorite Michael Myers sequel? If not, why not? Mention it in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching.